Almost everyone is using AI backwards right now. And to be honest, it's doing a lot more harm than good in their businesses. They're handing AI the public facing stuff that actually sells for them. Things like their brand voice, their marketing, and their messaging, all the things that bring clients in. But then they turn around and keep grinding through all the operational work themselves. Things like the follow up messages, the treatment maps, the back office systems that nobody sees. This is the stuff that eats hours of your week and never feels like it's moving your business forward. My guest today is Nicole Harlow of Lead Better, and she has spent 18 years building operations for health practitioners. And she keeps watching the same thing happen. Brilliant providers who are fully booked, burning out not because they can't get clients, but because they're the single point of failure holding their entire business together. Here's why you'll actually want to listen to this one. Nicole and I have both gone all in on AI in different ways, and we both got burned doing too much with it. So you're not getting hype and you're not getting fear in this conversation. You're getting two people who have already made the expensive mistakes, showing you exactly where AI belongs in your business, including the operational work it can pull off your plate this week. And you're also going to understand the one part of your business you should never let AI touch. So if your coaching or practitioner business is running on sticky notes and a Google spreadsheet you're scared to open, and you're starting to have that sinking feeling that you are actually the bottleneck, then this one is for you. Let's dive into this conversation with Nicole Harlow. Most business advice is built on one key assumption, that what worked for someone else will work for you too. The Nourished CEO podcast exists to challenge that assumption and point to a better way. I'm Laura Schoenfeld, strategic advisor and business coach with over 15 years of experience online and multiple millions of dollars earned from my own business. I'm also a mom of two and a devoted wife who runs it all in about 20 hours a week. This show is for the established coach, consultant, or service provider who is done following someone else's playbook and is ready to build a joyful, profitable business from their own authority. Every episode is a direct, no filters conversation about the real challenges you're facing in your business, with honest strategy and practical action steps that you can actually use right now. Because working smarter and building something sustainable matters a lot more than just chasing a bigger number. No recycled advice or empty inspiration here, just honest, integrity-driven conversations about building a business that fits your life as much as it fits your goals, so that it gives more than it takes while nourishing everything you're building outside of it. If that sounds like the breath of fresh air you're looking for, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Nourished CEO podcast, Nicole.
Hi guys, I'm super excited to be here today. Really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, me too. And I was very grateful to be on Nicole's podcast a little while back talking about all the business things. And so I wanted to bring Nicole on today to really dive into a topic that I don't think is always talked about enough because people are so obsessed about like the sales and marketing side of things, which is, important. Obviously, you need to have sales and marketing to have a business. But I think a lot of times people neglect the operational side because it doesn't feel as, I don't know, it just doesn't feel as revenue generating, when in reality it is actually very revenue generating and very important. And it is something where I find a lot of the people I work with, especially at like the 6-figure level and higher, a lot of times that is where the bottleneck is happening. And that's, if that is not addressed, their business altogether will slow down. It's not just that they're struggling to serve people. It's that now all that extra time and energy going into serving their clients is pulling them away from the sales marketing activities that were driving their sales and their income in the first place. So it's kind of this vicious cycle that I've seen happen. And it's not like one or the other is the only thing that matters, but I do think people sometimes forget about this part of their business because I find that a lot of people are just so used to doing it manually, doing it themselves, like, oh, nobody can do it like me. So they don't understand how important it is to systematize it. So I'm excited to chat with you about this. Can you share with our audience, how did you get into operations as your main focus in your business, given that I know you have a pretty broad background in a lot of different business topics?
Yeah. Well, I'll just say first, like the way that you just queued it up is like basically like the podcast episode, like everything you
Yeah.
just said. And we're gonna like circle back to that because it is something that I've seen in pretty much every client that I've ever worked with, right? Like gets to that bottleneck. So but kind of like backing up a little bit. So I, like yourself, have been in business for like a long time, right? So kind of like I always say a dinosaur in the space. Like I get started, I think we're going on at about like 18 years ago. So I was, like on Craigslist, blogging was kind of like blogging 2.0. Facebook was a little like there was no Instagram, there was no like all these platforms like didn't exist, right? But I was like wanted that laptop lifestyle. I was really into the idea of just like, whoa, wait, you can like make money online. So I was like pretty unemployable, like as I got started. Like I just knew I wanted to work for myself. And so, you know, in those many, many years of doing this, like I've been on both sides of the type of person that I work with. I tend to work with health practitioners and health coaches, but I started actually as like a yoga teacher and a health coach. And so I've seen it from both sides, both from like starting a clinic, running a clinic, learned pretty early on. And I appreciate this lesson that I was not a very good clinician. I wanted to do different things all the time, right? And so I would see somebody once and I'd tell them everything I knew about the menstrual cycle. I did a lot of like women's health coaching. So I would just like cue them up with so much information. And then they'd want to come back again. I'm like, but I told you what to do. Like, I was just so like, I don't want to see you again. Like, I've already like given you the blueprint. Now you just go and do it on your own. And so it's like, why am I not satisfied by this? So it took a little while. Like, I think like a lot of us as CEOs, like you have your story is kind of like twists and turns, right? Like you get this realization where you're like, wow, I don't love this. Like, what do I love? And that kind of cued me up to realizing that I loved the health space, but that I always was somebody, and I always have been somebody that like I like to learn how things work. I like to figure things out. So as platforms came, like suddenly there was a WordPress, right? Oh, how do you learn how to like make websites with WordPress? Oh, now there's Adobe products, and so I really got into building websites. That kind of started the branding side of my background, where I worked for over a decade helping practitioners and other business owners as well, like build their brand. And that for me was like, that kind of was like branding with a capital B. For me, that's not just a logo. That's like, who are you? What do you stand for? How do you speak? Like, what's your messaging? What is your website?
Personal
It's
branding,
all,
basically.
yeah, all the
Yeah.
things like, what are we going to wear on your photo shoot? Like, where, are you casual or are you all buttoned up? Right. And so I love that each new client was like a box of crayons for me, a whole new, like it kept it fresh. Right. And so I was able to do that for a long time. But I realized, I would work with a similar type of practitioner, and then they would get to this point where they'd have a beautiful brand, they would have invested, and people probably are listening and be like, yeah, I dropped some money on a brand and a website. And what do? You get to the end of that process and you're like, what do I do next? Like now I have all the things, I look great, but I don't know how to create content. I don't know what to do. And so that's when my second agency was born. And that's so Brand Better is the branding, Podcast Better is our podcast production agency, because I realized that like CEOs and doctors, like nobody wants to create content for social media. Even back in the day, nobody wants to do it, right? And so podcasting, like we're doing right now, is a great way to just kind of sit and chat about what you love. And I found that like even my introverted practitioners that I worked with, like they could sit on a conversation and they could just talk about like Lyme's disease or chronic fatigue, like whatever their thing is, like they could get really passionate about it. And so I, moved into like Podcast Better, and then I'm queuing up to get to the operations because it's unsexy. So it took me 18 years to get here, to be like to actually own that this is something that I love and I love working with practitioners for. But I was like seeing where everybody would get to, right? So they have the brand. I've always liked working with, my philosophy is like pick a person that you love and then work with them for as long as you can, right? And so
Mhm.
as long as it vibes with what you want to do in your business, so I'm always looking for the next thing that our practitioners need, that our ideal client avatar. So I want to work with somebody for years and years. So like, okay, what happens after branding? They don't need us anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody rebrand, like you made 10 more years, you might come back and say, okay, we're ready to freshen up.
Hmm.
And so I would see like after we would kind of solve the branding issue, we would solve the content issue, I would still have practitioners that would come to me and be like, well, like my business runs on sticky notes. My business runs on like one random Google spreadsheet. My front desk is going to quit because we have no systems, we have no SOPs. And like to your point, this is the unsexy work that nobody really spends the time to sit down and actually figure out like what are our underlying systems. And that's really where Lead Better, my third agency, came from. Manifesting generator here. So I like to
Just
I like
do
to
all the
start,
things.
I like to do all the things, right? I've tried some things that I haven't liked, like Facebook ads. I don't love being a marketing company in terms of like, I don't know, people expecting that you're going to go and you're just going to bring them a ton of leads.
Yeah.
Like I've tried that too. And I was like, that didn't feel good, right? It just wasn't. So I'm not everything to everybody. I think I don't want that to get lost in the message of just like I think it's important if you have, if you're trying to work with somebody over the long term, like make sure it's something that you love. And operations surprisingly was something that I actually loved. Like once I started stepping into that, I'm a good Taurus and we love to build systems. And so I was like, whoa, you give me something messy and chaos, and I can create something that's beautiful and elegant and works and ultimately helps you to work less, right? And so that's really where like the love of systems came in, the love of operations. But yeah, that's that's my origin story. So it takes us from like, I've always loved to learn how these systems work, platforms work. And so to get to this point, and Lead Better was really born during the birth of AI as well. And so that's something we can talk about today. And just, I've seen these new platforms come out, and I think my brain is always going, how can we use this? Like,
Hmm.
and that kind of leads us up to the present day. So I work a lot with practitioners now and our clients to help them build really beautiful systems that help them to, just focus on what they're doing. People
Yeah.
throw around this like zone of genius thing, but it's just like, yeah, like practitioners are like not here to, or really just CEOs in general, right? Because I know this audience is a little bit more broad. So like CEOs are like not here to do all the day-to-day admin tasks too.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and I do think for if somebody's like a brand new business owner, then yes, you are going to be wanting to do everything yourself for
Yes.
a
And
bit.
you kind of should, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I mean, how do you build a system if you've never actually done the thing that you're trying to build the system for, right? So it's like I think there has to be a level of just doing it manually in the beginning, both from a, learning how you actually operate and then also just from a cost perspective. It's
Yeah.
it's like if you're just trying to get clients, you don't need this like crazy back end system, right? Like I know a lot of people have started their business with, Google Docs and a Calendly link, right? So it's
Oh yeah.
the complexity to start is, I think honestly most people overcomplicate the starting, but when you're
Yeah.
getting into that more, you know, multi five, like multi six figure range, that is when the operations really does start to become a major drag. And I've even had this conversation with our new mastermind clients where we were looking at the different parts of their business to say, okay, where do you want to focus your main energy in the next 90 days? And even though sales and marketing was something that all of them did want to focus on and will focus on, they were also very mindful of the fact that their operations is distracting them from the sales and marketing piece. And it's
Yeah.
funny because it's like these are people who they have 30 years in healthcare experience. They've been in the actual like operational side of things, but when they've moved into their own business, they don't realize, oh, I don't have a system that I'm just plugging into. I actually need to design this and think about this and actually create something for my business, the way I want to run things, the way I want my clients to be served, the way my offer needs to be delivered, the way my team is, coordinating. So it is something where I just think a lot of people get very bogged down by it, and then they try to hire a team, and then the team doesn't know what they're doing, so then now they're micromanaging the team, and so it's just like it
Mhm.
can turn into such a hot mess very quickly with the people who are getting clients and are trying to scale past just that like very manual type of business. And I love it's so funny because I think one of the reasons I personally got into business coaching out of the health side of things is because for me it's similar. I like working with people for a long time. And so like that wasn't necessarily the issue with the health space. I think for me, the health space was like somebody would come in, they'd get their problem solved, and then they'd be like, all right, I'm great. Bye. And I am like, but I want to like evolve with people. So that's one of the things I personally really love about the business world is I can have somebody come in from like nothing. They have no business to now, 5 years, 6, 7 years later, people are coming and working with me, like coming back and working with me, and they're running like a $500,000 a year business after they started from zero with me. So I really love the endless arc of potential of business. And that's one of the reasons because I, really did enjoy working with people and did like being in the weeds with them with solving problems. But it was like, when that problem's over, now we're done. Right.
For
So,
your brand specifically, because just knowing what I know about you and knowing what I know about my avatar as practitioners, like they don't necessarily think about themselves as CEOs. And so
mhm,
like that's the second or the tertiary hat that they wear. Whereas
yeah.
like you get yourself into like other industries of business owners, like they're like, I'm a CEO. Like I'm here to
Mhm,
start a business, where practitioners are often reluctant CEOs. They're like,
yeah.
but I want to help people with medicine and
Mhm,
health and wellness, but like
yeah.
I have to like don the hat of being a business owner or a CEO in order to do that. And I feel like that's probably part of that shifting to your avatar. It's just like maybe wanting to work with someone who is just like, yeah, first and foremost, like I first and foremost think about myself as a CEO and a business owner. But
Mhm,
I'm not working, like I'm not here to like help people in the clinic. Right. So I
mhm,
think practitioners and health coaches and stuff, they kind of like wear a couple different hats where they have to be like, practitioner. And a lot of the people that I work with are busy. So they're like in a busy clinic. They maybe it's multi-practitioner in a clinic. So they're like the day to day is like heavy. And then they go home and they've got to write treatment plans and
yeah.
you write their notes, right? And then you got to do the admin, which is a whole other hat. And then you have to think like, so that's what I'm saying, like tertiary or even beyond is when they think about themselves as like, I'm a CEO, right? And
Yeah.
so
And
like,
I do find that the people who are able to get past that like 150, 200 level from a revenue perspective are the ones that do shift their identity into more of the CEO of the
100%.
business
Yeah.
than I'm a practitioner. And there's nothing wrong with identifying primarily as a practitioner or coach or somebody who directly serves clients. But I think for better or worse, we got into running businesses because we wanted to own it and we wanted to
Yeah.
control the direction of it, the vision, the creation of all the things. And so at the end of the day, like somebody has to be captain of the ship, right? And
A
so
hundred
if
percent.
you own your
Yeah.
own business, it's you, whether you like it or not. And so the people who do really embrace that and look at their business holistically as like a business needs its own things and you're not just like showing up and doing your practitioner work every day. Those are the people who do end up getting to like the multi six figure level and beyond. So
And that's sorry, can I interrupt you?
yeah,
Because I
yeah,
feel like
please.
you made a point and I wanted to just make sure that I highlighted it because it's something I see all the time. A few minutes ago, you talked about business owners who hire into a messy system. And this is why, like, business owners that, this is not just practitioners, this is across the board. Like, if you don't have a system and you don't have your operations, like, if you haven't done the work to, like, think it through, you hire somebody in and you expect them to come in and clean up your mess and your
Mm-hmm.
chaos. And virtual assistants, mostly, like, this will be like a virtual assistant or a practice
An
manager kind of
admin
thing,
type of
an
person.
admin type. The expectation is that person's going to come in and make your system for you. And that is the wrong expectation, right? There's very few times I'll be like black and white about things, but I'm like, that's the wrong expectation because an assistant or an admin, like, they're not there to create the system. They're there to slot into your system, which has already been thought out. So this
Mm-hmm.
is a mistake that I see a lot of people making, getting frustrated, and like 2 weeks later, the VA is gone.
Mm-hmm.
They're back to doing everything themselves because like all of the pressure like rolls up to the business owner.
Yeah.
Every decision rolls up to the business owner. And so this is one of the reasons like it's not just about being, when I think about operations, I'm like one of the benefits of having a good system is that you can hire the right person to take ownership of that part, right? And but you said it and I was like I wanted to go back to that because I'm like I think that's actually really important, especially at a certain level as you build your business because you just go, "Oh my God, I'm like putting out so many fires. I just have to I've done this 100 times. like I made this mistake so many times where I'm like, because I've not always been an operations person. Sometimes we like teach and learn what we need to. I'm a type B girl. Like I am the type of person for years to do something different every single time.
Mm.
It's part of my makeup. Like systems are saving me and my business. Like that's why I'm like so passionate about them, but not because I'm like hyper organized, but because I made all of these mistakes already. Like I've
Hmm.
just hired VAs and project managers, and this is the person that's gonna fix. And then like next thing you know, it's like I'm firing them because I'm like, you're not like I still
Doing
have to
what
make
I never told
decisions,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't come in and clean it all up, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think part of thinking through systems is like there's a certain amount of ownership that a business owner has to take in this role. But
Hmm.
the cool thing is if you do it right, you don't have to redo it, right? That's
Yeah.
the part I love about it. It's just like some of these things take a little elbow grease to kind of think through, like, okay,
Hmm.
when I sit down with a client and we start working together, I think there's a little bit of like, whoa, surprise that there's so much thinking involved. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, somebody signs on, right? They say yes. What happens next? Then what happens after that? Then what
Hmm.
happens after that? Like, how long until they get an email? When's your first touch point? When does that's like one little piece, and it could be
Hmm.
like 18 different decisions that need to be made.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
the power is like once those decisions are made, you have something that, it's very empowering, right? It's
Hmm.
very unsexy, but on the other side, it's empowering because then you can bring in somebody who is an awesome VA or admin who can just say, cool, I got it from here.
Yeah.
And you never have to think about that part again. So
Hmm.
I'm
Or very
like,
rarely. I
or
mean,
very rarely,
I
right?
think
Like
it's
until,
changed. Mhm.
yeah.
Well, and it's funny. I have a client who I think she listens to the podcast. So Cindy, if you if you're listening
Shout
right
out
now,
Cindy.
this is about you. But I had a conversation with her recently because she was getting really frustrated with some of the breakdowns that were happening with her, like trying to hand things off. And when I looked at the methodology that she was using, I think it was I think it was something she kind of learned in the more corporate healthcare space where
Mhm.
you have people in these management roles that are supposed to like own the outcome and create the systems and all of that. And so she was used to working with people in that kind of vicinity. And so she has these people that were brought into her business to do a lot of this operational stuff, a lot of this, like, make sure kits are going out and that the people are getting the right form signed and everything. And she was just feeling really frustrated because she was asking these team members to bring her their idea for how they were going to make this happen and keep it consistent and everything. And I basically had to tell her that she was expecting them to basically act like entrepreneurs in her business.
Mhm.
And for most people who take a part-time virtual admin job, that is not the kind of work they want to be doing.
Nope.
They want and it's not, and this is not meant to be denigrating to anybody because I have had to learn very very quickly over the last few years that the way I think about things, the way I pursue things, the goals I have, the way I like to work is not normal.
Yeah.
What's actually quite normal for most people is they like to know what's expected of them. They like to know what good good work looks like. They like to know what's done. Like what's the
Mhm.
definition of
Yeah.
done? How do you want this done? What are the steps? And they don't want to be responsible for coming up with the steps on their own. And so this was like a huge revelation for her because she had been really, I think, wanting to feel like she was respecting their autonomy and like empowering them to own the role and all of that. And they were just like deer in headlights, like, we don't know what we're supposed to be doing here. And so we ended up being able to create some really very simple but very comprehensive SOPs for those team members for them to now go execute the things she wants executed. And she doesn't have to worry about like, are they going to do everything they need to do? Are all the boxes going to get checked? Because we literally have this is your SOP. This is the checklist that needs to get done when somebody onboards, and it's in the patient's notes that they can actually
Yeah.
go look and see that it was done. So I just think that mindset of remembering that you as the entrepreneur, you started a business, you are somebody who likes to create something from nothing and
Mhm.
likes to be like just anything's possible. Let me create something. And I do find that at least 50% of people, I would say probably more, but most people do not think like that. And if they're coming to work for you,
Yeah.
they probably don't want to be in that role. Very few people, I think, want to come in and act like an integrator essentially. So I just wanted to make a note of that because I think it can be this like when you're an entrepreneur, you can feel like you're being very controlling by telling people what to do because you don't want to be told what to do, right? That's why you started a business. But for a lot of these people coming in, they're like, please just tell me what to do. Like, I will do whatever you tell me to do, but I do not want to be like, the brains behind the entire operation and try to come up with this myself.
I think that's so smart and so well said. And it's like a conversation that doesn't get had very often. Like just the difference between, I think for me, it kind of blends like two things. Like one is like something that we had already mentioned, which is like, as an entrepreneur, I'm not saying that you have to do every single thing yourself when you're starting out, but I think the more things that you can try to do and get your hands dirty with, hey, I'm gonna try to, I think there's a time and place for hiring out, and it's important to know. And I can't solve that for any individual entrepreneur. Like, probably you have a better sense of like, okay, for example, I'm going to hire someone to do Facebook ads because that's not really a place where I want to understand how that
Yeah,
works.
that's my husband does Facebook ads for people.
Yeah,
That is the
yeah.
one area you do not really want to be
I've
spending a lot of
invested
time.
like $15,000 in learning Facebook ads over the years of different masterminds and stuff. And like, I'm still not confident
They
necessarily. Like,
change all the time.
it's
That's
so much,
why.
right? Yeah. So that's an example of like, that might be a place. I think there are some places or edge cases where you're like, okay, I really think I should just like jump over and just have somebody. But I'm like, I feel like especially in the day to day of your business, let's say like the client relationship journey, I think you should have a baseline knowledge of how all of those pieces work because you've tried to work it out to be able to see like even hire a good person to say how long should this take? How expensive should this be for someone to, I don't know, put together a welcome packet for our patients or something. So I feel like part of it is just like having a more confident understanding of like the inner workings of your business. Because I think people like sometimes hire too early and they don't really understand that part themselves.
Yeah.
And then they feel disempowered. They're like, I don't know, am I getting overcharged for this? Like you bring in, I don't know, hiring a marketing agency is probably a good example of this too, where you're just
Mhm.
like, well, I just never even tried to like make my own social media content, or I haven't tried to do this part of it. And I think this is a complex conversation because there's like you want to stay in your lane too. But I
Yeah.
think, as you grow and as the business grows, you get more and more freedom to stay in your lane. But I
Hmm.
think there is something to be said about like knowing kind of the different parts and the different things that you like to hire for, right? I feel like that's a part of the conversation. And then the other thing that I was really thinking about when you're talking is like I definitely fell into that trap of expecting hires to think like entrepreneurs or have lots of ideas. And I feel like the space for me, and this is maybe where we kind of pivot the conversation a little bit, but when I started working with Claude a couple months ago, it was like such a mind-blowing experience for me because suddenly, and this is different than like what I was experiencing with ChatGPT or Gemini over the last couple of years, Claude became like a strategic thinking partner with me. And this is interesting because like I don't know if all entrepreneurs are like this, but I'm not very coachable. Like I know this about myself. I've not been a good mentee, or I haven't had great experiences working with business coaches because like I just want to do things my own way. That's why I am an entrepreneur. Like I'm here to just be like, I get to decide. I don't really want to be told what to do. But suddenly I'm like working with Claude and I'm like, I'm paying attention to what it's saying. I'm like taking its advice. It has all the possibilities, right? So it's like, it is, if we're entrepreneurs and we're here having lots of ideas and seeing different ways of doing things, I'm like, suddenly I have a strategic thinking partner who has like all the ideas. And
Hmm.
so I don't have to like ask, a VA, or we have a lot of technical VAs. Like I have developers on my team. I was starting going like, well, how would we do this? And how would we do this? Like I want to build this very specific thing for our so we have a platform as well. So I'm like, and then I was disappointed because the developers aren't coming back with ideas. I'm like, then I bring it to Claude and it's like, oh, we could do it this way and this way and this way. And so I'm throwing that out there. Just if you're an CEO listening to this, like sometimes just having those voice note conversations with like Claude or another AI can like unlock what you're looking to get out of some of your employees, right? Like a virtual
Mhm.
assistant or an admin person, like you're asking them to like come up with ideas when maybe they're just the executor of the ideas. So I don't know if this
Mhm.
is an experience that you've had as well, like, but I was like, whew, suddenly I have my like really smart thinking partner
Mhm.
because another one more thing I'll say there, just and I want to hear your perspective, is like it can be lonely as a CEO.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? You're just like, okay, I'm gonna like ask this person, but they're like, they have no context. They're not an entrepreneur. Like, it's hard to like have a good sounding board for should we do it this way or should we do it this way?
Mhm.
That's actually one of the places where I've been using AI the most in business is really
Yeah.
as that sounding board.
Yeah. Well, two things come to mind from all of that for me. One is this idea that knowing how to do something or having experience with doing something is so helpful when you're looking to use AI to recreate it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know how to do something, how are you going to know how to train AI? Right. And so I think for me, having worked with team members pretty consistently for at least 10 years now, I know how to train a team member. Maybe not the best. I'm not the most patient with that kind of stuff, but like it's probably why I like AI so much because it's so fast and
I
I can be
know.
mean to it and it doesn't matter. But I know how to inform and guide output from a human. And
Yeah.
so being able to then move over to something like Claude and create a skill that can do the thing that I would have normally had to train a team member on, that is a very transferable skill for me now, which is really great. Because I think a lot of people do not use AI effectively in any way, shape, or form. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's something where I have so much experience with that I can just like bang stuff out so fast on Claude now. So it can be a little dangerous. I will say to your point about the thought partner. So I've had an interesting experience with that side of Claude because I am somebody who like my number one strengths finder skill is ideation. So
Mm,
ideas are like literally a dime a dozen for me and to the point where I'm like too many ideas, not enough actual build, right? And so for me, I've had to be really careful about excessive Claude use or AI use for that part of things because it can turn into this like never ending just vortex of like thinking for me. And so I know for me personally, I had been a little bit, I don't want to say coachless, but like a little coachless for a bit, just, trying to figure out what I really wanted out of a coaching relationship. And I recently hired a coach again because I know that I can like literally go back and forth with Claude about an idea for weeks and never really come to a conclusion. But
mm,
paying a coach and her like she I think has that human ability. I don't really know if AI can really do this, but that human ability to kind of sense when I'm being evasive, right? Where I'm
hmm.
like trying to like not
Yeah, which is like, wait,
not
maybe
lock
you just
in.
have to do the work, right? Maybe it's
Yeah.
just time to
Well,
get started.
and for me, it's not even about like for me, it's like I will do the work on whatever idea that I want to lock in on. But because I have so much experience in building things, I'm almost like too far ahead of myself thinking like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much work. Do I really want to do this? Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not that I won't do the work. It's that because I know how much work it takes to execute, I'm like, I really want to be sure that this is the direction I want to go in.
Yeah.
So I'm a little less naive than I used to be, but I do find that like I actually literally have I have an offer brainstorming thing up on Claude on my other screen and I am bringing that conversation to my coaching call with my coach tomorrow because I'm like I need to actually make a decision here and I want to I want the good, bad, and ugly about what I need to think about before I do this. And I do find that Claude is a little more on the good. Like it's like
Hmm.
a little bit too, I'll give you whatever answer is the one you want versus the one that maybe I don't want. And so anyway, a little bit of a side note, but I think with whenever I look at AI, I always look at AI as if I would hire somebody below my pay grade to do it potentially, then I will use Claude for it. If it's like somebody above my pay grade, I'm very, very cautious because I don't want to outsource all my thinking to something
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
doesn't have human experience to say, maybe this isn't a good idea, or maybe we need to look at it this way, or, oh, I ran an offer like that, and here's something you might want to think about. So,
Yeah.
all of that to say, and we can actually, this is a really great detour point or return point to the original topic. This is one reason why I think operations is such a good part of your business to use AI for,
Mhm.
because if you built the business, in most situations, you know what needs to be done to operate it. If you are running it yourself, it doesn't mean you're like consciously aware of all the things you're doing, but you have the skill to do it. You've done it, you're doing it, and documenting and training AI to then do it for you, I think is a much better use of AI than having AI like be the CEO in your business or be the
Yeah.
CMO
Yeah.
or something where it's like making decisions for you, because ultimately it doesn't actually have decision making capabilities. Like it sounds like it does, but it's like at the end of the day, you still need to be the one driving the face and the vision of the business. So that's why I'm like, I'd love to really dig into the operation side, because I just think it's such an untapped way to use AI that facilitates the just freedom of the owner of the business, where
Mhm.
they can get so much done that needs to get done to serve their clients well and to run the business well, and they don't have to be bogged down in all the details of doing everything themselves that they've been doing probably at this point for years if they're a 6+ figure business owner.
Oh yeah. Did you want me to talk? I wasn't sure if I heard the question in there.
Oh, I didn't end up with a question.
Because I
So
could go in a lot of different directions, but I want to hear like
yeah,
specifically like what.
let's talk about the operation side, because again, I think a lot of people, I think it's really easy to get down a rabbit hole with AI and just all the idea generation, but I think a lot of people are missing this opportunity to use AI to actually build functional, just things that their business actually does to function,
Yeah.
versus kind of getting stuck in this stuff that, I mean, again, and this is my own experience, but just having this like, I can brainstorm with Claude for 3 weeks straight and never actually implement any of it. Versus if it's, oh, I can build a skill that has Claude do XYZ for me. And now that just saved me like 5 hours in my week. Like that's the kind of
Yeah.
stuff that I think people are not necessarily using AI for. And that's, I know like the operation side is like, what you're
There's
doing with a
so
lot of
many
your
different
time.
layers to it, right? And I think that's what's like fascinating because it's like, okay, so AI by itself is like there's so many different layers. And then operations are so many different layers. And so I think people don't even like realize like how they can be using AI for these two very broad, like what the heck do I do with these
Yeah.
things? You know, because I think the operations, like the way that I've seen, I think a lot of people like look at AI and they're just like, cool, I'm just going to have Claude or ChatGPT write all my social media posts, or I'm going to have it write all my emails, right? And then they call it a day. They're just like, cool, like I got my content out, you know? Whereas I think we can use AI really effectively one place where I see like clients really have a great experience, and myself too, is like Claude, for example, can be really great at helping you like operationalize like steps in your head. And this is where I'm like, for example, I have a client right now. She's just like spending 4 hours making treatment maps. And I'm like, okay, that's not sustainable at all, right? She's already hitting a wall. Like she wants to grow. She's hitting a wall of how many patients she can work with every week because she's sitting down and she's doing her formulas every single time. She's like, she hasn't operationalized that at all. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what I want you to do is I want you to just like get on Claude and I want you to just like talk out. What do you do with every treatment map that you make? Okay, I do this step first, then I do this. Oh, I forgot. I actually go back and I do this. I'm like, talk it out and then like work with AI to create that map. It doesn't need to implement anything, but sometimes it's just like the operation side can be so messy. And I know this for myself too. It's just like there's so much resistance to like actually sitting down and mapping up the steps. And I can say, I can remember like when I was starting Podcast Better and there was no AI and I had to like sit down and I'm like, whoa, okay, so we're doing a podcast right now. Like, what do we do every time that we're starting a podcast? And then when we're editing an episode, and I had these like really big fridge, like this industrial side note. My husband used to be a farmer, a microgreens farmer, and so That's contextually why we had these huge industrial fridges, 4 of them. And I
Mhm.
just had sticky notes across the whole thing to map out like which what now feels like a very simple, oh, this is what we do every time we edit a podcast. But thinking it through every step was like a weekend project that just took like big sheets of paper. And we have the luxury of being able to like, now I can just sit down and say, okay, we do X, Y, and Z. And then, am I missing any steps in there? Are there
Mhm.
any places where I ask AI, where can I use AI to make this part go faster?
Mhm.
Is it show notes? Is it creating a tracker? And then kind of like, then we go into like other layers of AI operations, which are things like, AI agents, right? We build in our platform like AI front desk systems, right? Totally different thing than using Claude and voice noting and so, having something write your social media posts is like actually having an agent that has a set of instructions who can say, a one use case example of how we use this is a heart MD in New York City. She's cash pay. And so, we have people and they're really busy. So we have people go route it through an AI, voice AI system to say, we're cash pay. Are you a yes or no to that? Oh, I'm a no. Okay. They move into a disqualified tag. They get, 6 or 7 emails trying to downsell them on a different, some toolkits or a heart membership or listen to the podcast. So like that might be 2.0 from what people are thinking about, but that is like the next level of, you've got the what can I do with my computer and Claude or ChatGPT, like to help me kind of understand my operations and the systems and help me build SOPs, like so I can double check them and then feel like, okay, yep, this is accurate. And then I can hand that off to somebody. And then there's also like AI that we can use within the operating system itself. And a place where I like to think about that is I'm like, either you or the team, either A, what's taking a lot of time,
Mhm.
or B, maybe there are things like there are a lot of things in my business that don't take a lot of time that I am not consistent with at all.
Mm.
Follow-ups, very bad at follow-ups. Responding to DMs, very bad at that. Like there's certain things where just because of my personality, like I'm just not super consistent with that.
Mhm.
And so I would say, okay, it may take me 30 seconds to write a response, but in my, ADHD brain, I have so much resistance and it could take me 3 days. I'm just a bad responder. Like I'm a bad
Mhm.
texter, like my family just like, we don't hear back from you. I'm like, I want to, but I just have a lot of resistance to that. And so like,
Mhm.
can I use an AI doesn't even mean that it's always writing the responses. Maybe it's a skill that reminds me every day, hey, can you take 5 minutes and respond to your
Yeah.
DMs? Can you take 5 minutes and sign up for a podcast episode? And so I know I'm throwing a lot of ideas out there, but it's just the playing field is so broad and there's a lot of
Mhm.
different ways. Like, so AI doesn't always have to be doing things for you. It can be, I have a skill on Claude that every morning just does my like here's your day. These are the meetings. This is some prep for a sales call that you have where like the skill like will read the questionnaire that they filled out and just give me some like talking points. It asks me what am I going to do for exercise today? Like it's like, you can train it however you
A
want.
life
Like
coach for you.
yeah, it's just like and it reminds me of and this is I don't know if we talked about this when I was interviewing you, but like I've trained out my Claude on like all of my like human design, astrology, Myers-Briggs, like all the personality data that I could feed to it and
Mhm.
was like, here, I want you to know me because I want you to help me make decisions the way that I have a hard time making decisions or have it
Mhm.
easy, like I want you to be, it's kind of like circling back to the coaching side or the thinking side in some ways it just mirrors
Yeah.
me back to me. It's
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, you know what? Alex Hormozy does things like this, but that's not your design. Your
Mhm.
design isn't to like cold broadcast to a million people. It's to like, have a little intimate gathering of 10 people and, like, and broadcast it in a warm way. And so like, I think there are ways that we can use AI to really have it know us better
Mhm.
so it can help us make decisions that are more aligned for what will actually be successful for us, like
Yeah.
even you and I are could be so different and how you
Mhm.
like will build a successful business would be like wildly different
Yeah.
than me,
Well, Yeah, and it's funny because that's like a major component of one of the programs that I launched this year. So it's a newer program and I'm not sure when it's relaunching, but just that idea of giving like Claude as a separate project in your Claude system, lots of different input from
Hmm.
personality type to things like human design. And then we help our clients come up with details about their business from their own brains to start with, because like, I do think you we all I believe that we all individually know what is best for ourselves ultimately.
Hmm.
But a lot of times we're getting like distracted by what other people are doing or what somebody else said we should do. So
Yes,
just having all of that baked in as like you said, a mirror where you're able to communicate with something that knows, hey, you said you want to work 20 hours a week. Is this going to fit into your 20-hour work week? Right. So just helping
exactly.
make those decisions better. So, yeah, I mean, I think with AI, it's one of these things where it's like looking for what places make sense for the individual person to use and what's going to make their life and business better than it just being
Yeah.
some, standard. This is the thing you need to use it for.
You can add them as layers, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't all have to happen right now. We've built like AI systems for clients where like, it analyzes call transcripts automatically and sends a note. It's like, okay, this is, a personalized follow-up email for this person, right? But that
Mhm.
all happens immediately after the call. Those are things that you could do piecemeal on your own. You can take the call. That's actually one of, if I could share just, one tip that's really helped me is like,
Yeah.
I have, now I'm not HIPAA, I don't have PHI, so people might be listening to this and it's a totally different thing if you're like, discussing health issues on a call. But for me, I do, including this podcast right now, like I will get as many transcripts as I can if I'm recording a podcast, if I have a strategy call with a client, if I have sales calls, I run every transcript through Claude and it's just like, what are the angles here? Did I say anything that would be good for social media? Because like we sit down and we try to create content and it's like hard to remember like what do I say? I don't know. Like it gets really generic because then you're like looking to AI to make those angles for you when actually we're saying them a lot to our
Mhm.
clients, to our people. We're like when we're being interviewed, when we're like sitting down and brainstorming, like that's one place where you can pull in a lot of great content and just say like what did I say here that was like that could and like have a bank of ideas that are coming from every transcript, including like sales calls and kickoff calls with clients, strategy calls, as long as you have their permission, but I feel
Mhm.
like that's something where you can really like glean a lot of good information and then turn that into a lot of different things, right? Like emails, sales pages, social media
Mhm.
content, and help it to feel a little less generic and a little less like AI slop created. And it's more like, oh, this is something I like from there. I'm like, ooh, this content's really good. It's like, yeah, because I said it. It's
Yeah.
like, because it's like, it was thought out, right? And or
Mhm.
this is something on the flip side, it's things that are ideal avatars actually saying from their mouth, right? And
Mhm.
so I might be like, do you feel like you're the bottleneck, right? And like have these kind of like generic like sayings, or they're saying like, I have a sticky note that reminds me to check the voicemail of our business once a week. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually, relatable. A lot of our other practitioners will be like, yep, I have a sticky note like that too, reminding me to do something like very simple, a very
Mhm.
simple admin task, because that just gets pushed to the back of their list over and over and over again.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing to remember what we used to do like 5 to 10 years ago, even just everything manual. You would be reading. I used to have to get transcripts done from like a VA who would literally listen and type the transcript
I
for
had
me.
that
So
too. Yeah.
yeah, so it's just crazy, like just how much has changed so quickly and how much easier it is to do so many things now. For somebody who is thinking about adding AI into their business, I know I've seen a wide range of AI comfort levels with the clients that I work with. And
Yeah.
I'm definitely one of those like AI, what's the word? Like I love it, but I also know what problems it can cause, right? It's kind of that
Yeah.
double-edged sword of, oh my gosh, there's so many really powerful things it can do. And then if it's used inappropriately, it could literally like destroy your business. I mean, that might be a little dramatic, but I see so many people that are using AI in a very unskilled way to put garbage content out in the public
a
facing,
hundred percent. Yeah.
arena. And I'm just like, dude, like I would rather you be invisible than putting that stuff out. So I do think there's like some guardrails people need. Out of curiosity, how do you decide which parts of the business get outsourced to AI and which parts of the business need to stay in the
For for
purview
myself
of
or for
either? I
for
mean, I
clients.
know for
Yeah.
yourself, obviously, your business is going to be different than the clients that you work with is a different model. But how do you like, is there certain ways that you would help somebody figure that out where it's like, okay, this
Yeah.
stays human and this goes to AI?
I would say for most of my clients, like yourself, they are at a different range of AI comfort. And so some people want to go all in and they're just like, yeah, let's just have AI handle as much as it can, right? And in which case, we're going to be building like AI phone systems and chat bots and I mean anything up to with our platform, we can have AI respond to DMs and Instagram. I have clients who are just like, I would rather just never, like, I want to have an Instagram, but I'd rather just never log in.
Mm-hmm.
Look, cool. Okay. So, then we just have to do, the training, right? And I'm not saying any of these things are like necessarily, it's not more successful to have AI answering your DMs, but for a certain client, like that's a point of contention. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
every client comes with their own unique, this is the part that I hate. This is the part that I can do. This is the part that I never, ever want to do. And so, like, some people have a budget to have like a human front desk. Other people are answering calls and their cell phone's ringing and they're like, they've got kids and they're never getting back to people. And so that might be a place where, like, oh, we want to start there. And so I like to kind of see where a client is and where the path is of the most frustration, where the biggest bottleneck is. Like I mentioned, a client, like her treatment maps are the biggest bottleneck. So even though we could have started in like lead generation or like what happens when someone like, build a quiz and then we can have AI analyze the results and make a personalized email, like there's, different levels that we could do even at that point. But she's like, well, my treatment maps are killing me. So like, how can we use AI to make that part a little bit simpler so that she has a template that she can put her information in. Then this is all, I won't get into the details because we're using like a HIPAA compliant platform for that. You can't just throw that into just normal Claude, but that's for another conversation. So I like to see where people are at and what their comfort level is with using AI tools. And I want to make a distinction here because I think it's really important. The distinction between automations and AI. I know we didn't talk about this earlier, but there's a way to have automations in your business without ever using AI. If you're just like, I know people are just like, I don't mess with AI at all. Like I would still, and automation is just if X happens, then Y happens.
It's like
We,
computer,
we
normal
already know this, right?
computation.
It's binary, right? There's no AI. There's what makes AI is that there's a thinking component to it. So like
Mm-hmm.
someone could sign up for a calendar appointment and get an automated email to say, oh, here's your appointment. They could get
Mm-hmm.
3 more emails. We've all seen this. It's like you set it up with MailChimp, or these are automations, right? Or someone joins a course and, every 10 days they get a new module that gets unlocked. What
Yeah.
makes it AI is that you can plug AI into an automation and then there's a reasoning thinking component to it. Like if somebody fills out their questionnaire this way, we might send them to a different practitioner because they have a gut issue. If they're, if I don't know, if they're located in Scottsdale, Arizona, we might send them over here, right? And so there's like training and logic and reasoning that comes with plugging in some of the AI tools.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me personally, it's a really good question. I'm like, I actually I turn to AI in the places where I feel the most resistance and my week is really full and I have a lot of stuff that needs to get done every week. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to kind of like decide, okay, is this something I can trust Claude, for example, to put together like for I don't know, for something like for me might be I had a strategy call with a client, take that transcript and turn that into a comprehensive to-do list. Like that for me has been everything because
Oh, I love that. I
I
love
used to
it so
hold
much.
everything in my head. Like you're
Mhm.
saying, what did we do a couple years ago? I just kept everything in my brain. I was
Or you had to
so,
like write everything down while you're talking, and then you're trying to pay attention to who you're talking to and write at the same
yes.
time.
And my notes are always the craziest. I don't know how, like they'll be like in a circle. I write everything everywhere. And I would
Like
look at them and be like,
hieroglyphics or something.
yeah, I'd look at my notes and be like, I don't even know what this means.
Hmm.
Like I couldn't trust myself. Like before we had like even AI note takers, I'm just like, oh my. So then there'd be like this pressure to like, as soon as the call's done, I need
Go
to execute on what
figure it out.
happened,
Yeah.
figure it out,
Mhm.
make a plan, make a map. And that really limited the amount of clients that I could take on because I could only hold so much client information in my head before being like, okay, now I'm capped out, right?
Mhm.
And so using AI for like transcripts, what's my to-do list, who Claude knows my team, who needs to get assigned, what and for me, most helpfully, what questions need to get answered before we can because our build maps are huge. Like when we bring on a clinic, it could be like so many different steps and things that need to be built in their EHR, in our CRM platforms. Like the projects are big. And so being like having to hold that all in my head, that's a place where I really turn to AI. Honestly, a lot of the follow-up is still manual. A lot of
Mhm.
the writing is still manual, but my social media captions have gotten a lot shorter, I will say.
Yeah.
I use AI for a lot of the podcast stuff, transcripts. Like we said, we used to have somebody that had to listen to every episode and pull out the show notes.
Hmm. You're like,
Incidentally,
I
our
hope that
pod,
was a good episode.
I
Hope you
know,
enjoyed that.
I know, right? Our podcast services have gotten a lot cheaper by comparison to what we used to have to pay like 3 or 4 years ago to just have one person to listen to the episode and make the show notes was like hundreds of dollars. So
Mhm.
like, right now we can have AI throw our shows through, our transcripts through, and just even pull out like, oh, these are, 2 or 3 moments that we would make some reels or some
Mhm.
social content. So I use AI for that as well. And I think probably like the biggest thing for myself is, and you really nailed it. I think I felt it in my gut, like using Claude, for example, as a thinking partner. I would say 80% of the time, it's actually just hitting my gut where I'm just like, it's confirming what I already know.
Mm.
And I think that's why I've trained it so much on myself because
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that is the right direction. Like I had a really like a kind of failed launch that happened a few months ago because overthinking, I got myself into like, no, we're gonna do more DIY. Like our avatar is a done for you person. Always has
Mm.
been.
Yeah.
Now always will be probably. I was like, what if we just go into DIY, right? We're gonna get more of that like we're gonna sell our platform as a SaaS and then we'll go DIY. And so I created this whole like launch around it and it just like was not right. And that's okay. There was so much learning that came from it. But I'm like, that came from overthinking something with AI
Mm.
and overconfidently moving, being like, yeah, we should do it this way. Claude said yes. And so I just want to like, you know, I think confirm what you're saying that like it is a place that you want to be cautious because you can easily, if you're an ideas person, you're a thinker, like you could find yourself like going off in this other track where it's just like it's good to just kind of come back and just be like ultimately like your gut is the North Star,
Mhm.
right? To be like, okay, this is the direction that I want to go in, whether that's like changing your niche or I don't know, switching whether you're going one to packages to group programs. There's so many decisions we have to make as business owners. And so like
Right.
I think I came in a really like hot around like, yes, I love it as a strategic partner, thinking partner, and I do, but with guardrails for sure.
Mhm.
You like
Yeah. I was
sleep
just
on it, think
right.
about it, right?
Well, yeah, and I think just remembering that it'll help you solve whatever problem you want to solve. It doesn't mean that it's giving you the right direction to take, right?
Yeah.
Like if you tell
Yeah.
it, like if you're like, I want to get from New York to LA, tell me how to get there. It'll tell you how to get there. But what if you wanted to go to Toronto? Then you're not going to go where you want it, right? That's where I feel like for my use of AI, it's much more focused on I already know where we're going. I know the bones of how I want to get there. And I need either you to actually get it there because I don't want to do all the manual labor to get it there,
Mm.
or to your point before about like, what are some ways we could get there if you're really feeling stuck? Like, okay, I know I'm in New York. I want to get to LA. Here are some of the, I need to make the trip in 3 days and blah, blah, blah. Like you give it the parameters that and then it gives you a solution. Right. And so I think
Yeah.
it's like the part that is not good for AI is when you're like, I don't know what city I want to go to. Like, you just give me a route to take, right? And
Yeah.
I'm using the map example as a metaphor because it's not. I mean, I guess you could plan a road trip for sure with AI, but it's this idea that if you are wanting it to make decisions for you, essentially,
Yeah.
or like you're trusting it that it like you think it knows more than you do about the decision to make, it's like,
Mhm.
oh, that's where it starts to get dicey. Versus I think a lot of what we're talking about is taking stuff you already know how to do or you already are doing and making it easier to do or reminding you to do it. It's like Claude didn't tell you you need to answer DMs this many times a week. Like it didn't make that decision. You made the decision.
Yeah.
You just didn't want to be the one doing the DMs. And I'm not saying you, I just mean like the person
No,
that's
no,
doing
no.
it. But it's like, it's like, okay, great. You don't want to look at your DMs every day. I can do it for you. But it's not the one that decided responding to DMs on Instagram as part of your business model, right?
Right. And I want to just comment quickly on one thing that you had said before around like managing people versus like managing Claude, for example. Like I am like if anybody's listening and you're more oriented to be like a people pleaser, I'm a Libra rising, and so I want everybody to just be like chill and like diplomatic. I don't want to rock the boat. And so that doesn't really make me a great boss, and it doesn't really get me the results that I want. I wind up having a lot of internal frustration. And so if you resonate with that, something that I love about working with Claude is just like, I don't have to manage that relationship. I don't have to be always like self-censoring around like saying that I don't like it a certain way or it's not done correctly or, and I don't have to necessarily, I'm not necessarily mean to my
You're not
Claude.
abusing it.
I am not. No, and I'm really actually I'm very nice. I'm always like, "Thank you," and you're doing a really great job,
And also, I don't like this.
yeah, but I'm like, I hate it. This isn't right. This isn't the way we do things. Like, or, I think you could do a much better job here. Like that would be very hard for me to have that kind of relationship with staff.
Yeah.
And it's why I stay pretty like lone wolf. I don't want to have like excessive managing of relationships in my own. Some people are like, they're born to lead a team. I'm
Mhm.
not. I'm just
Yeah.
like born to just like have ideas and get things done
Mhm.
and help my clients, like
Solve problems.
solve problems, right? Like here's what's your chaos? Show it to me. I'll help you create the system, or in the branding sphere, it's just like where do you want to go? How do you want to be known? When people are talking about you, what would you like them to be saying? Okay, this is a solution, is a brand that looks like this, feels like this. I don't like being able to work with Claude or AI and not have to manage my own.
Emotional response.
Uh-huh. I love it. It's very like it's really helped me like financially, places where like, I wouldn't necessarily for help for somebody else because there's either like emotional or maybe some shame, right? You're just like, oh, I got messy finances. I got messy bookkeeping. Like this is a place where you can also, with guardrails, like use AI because it's unemotional.
Hmm.
It's just factual. Okay, this is what your numbers look like. This is where we need to get to. This is how I suggest that we get there. Like, like a light kind of CFO type of thing. And so I know these are like edge cases, but they're actually things that have been really helpful for me or places that I either feel like I wouldn't do a good job because I'm
Yeah.
afraid of hurting people's feelings and
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say no, I don't like that. Or how about
Hmm.
this? Redo it again. How about this? Are you going to tell them the fifth time to redo it? Maybe one time, but I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, now you're on round five. I'm paying for this and I don't like the result. And now I'm just like, I don't want to work with you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
You're,
I've definitely had that experience where I have somebody on the team or, as a contractor or something, and it's like you're like, I don't want to be mean or I don't want to make them feel bad or whatever. So then you're just like frustrated because you're not getting what you want. And you're like, and I'm not saying that none of this is, I'm not endorsing this behavior. This is leadership
yeah, no, I
opportunities
know,
to
I know, I
grow
know.
into it. But I will say there's definitely been times where I've kept people in roles longer than I should have or wanted to because I just was like, they're not bad enough to fire, but this is not great, right?
Yeah.
It's it's not like they're stealing money from the business or something. It's just this like it's not quite working and it's taking a lot of time and attention from me versus with like you said AI. I mean, it takes so much less attention and time because you don't have to, it's you don't have to like remind it as often. I mean, you definitely have to remind it. I've been a little surprised by that. Sometimes it forgets things and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you have this in your memory, but
Yeah,
it's
that
not,
happens.
yeah, but
Not
it's
as
not
much.
like,
I mean, now that we've got Claude and Notion, that's like brilliant, and not to have something that is building on memory,
mhm,
like, but I think the other thing that I like just kind of personally working with Claude specifically is like I can context switch as much as I want to without feeling like a weirdo. Like if I have like staff, even if I have like an executive assistant or something like that, and I'm just like with Claude, like I can just be doing one thing and I have another computer open and I'm just like thinking because like my brain just works fast.
yeah.
Like, and I have lots of ideas like yourself. And so being able to just be like, okay, I can just get so much more stuff done in such a short period of time.
Mhm,
And like my brain just feels so much clearer than it ever
yeah.
has been, where I'm just
Yeah.
like, cool. Like, and then I know I'm like learning healthy boundaries of like, okay, this is when we like I don't need to be using Claude all the time or asking it. You start off, you're like asking it every single little question. I'm just like, cool. Like, I think we all find our footing there too. But I know when
Mhm,
I do sit down to work, like being able to context switch and also being able to step away because my energy is pretty inconsistent. So like you can't really do that with a human employee. People are
mhm,
waiting on ClickUp to hear back from me. And then it's just like,
yeah.
oh, I just went into something else.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I was sitting here waiting for a response, but I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I go back to Claude and it's just like, cool, let's just pick off.
Like, yeah,
It could
I
it
was
could be
gonna
like
mention
seven
that.
days later and it's just like, cool, let's just like
Right.
pick back up
Like it
again.
never stopped. Yeah, because sometimes I'll get into a moment where I'm like, I need a break from thinking about this. I need to like go do something else and then come back to it. And it can be literally the same conversation and just plug right back in.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
And for whatever reason, it annoys me, and this is just a personal thing. It annoys me to have to like check in. Like, I'm not a good boss. I think I've said this like 100 times, but just like to even be like, hey,
self-aware at
I'm
least, right?
I'm not here to like be on a set schedule. I'm not here like I would even get annoyed that like, someone I would be expected like at noon to sit down and check in with somebody to make sure that they're working on what they're working on. Like I'm
Mhm.
frustrated by that because part of my business ownership is to be able to just kind of like flow in whatever I feel like for the day. And I know that's not always it's not always realistic, and I do have meetings and I have specific, I have things that I show up for, but like it's one of the perks I think of like working with an AI employee in some ways is just being able to like plug in and plug out when
Mhm.
I want to
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
have to say, bye, I'll be back. I'm going to go have a lunch break because that just brings me right back to like having an office job. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that doesn't work for me. But I'm
Mhm.
I'm a specific case when it comes to
I mean, but to be fair,
that.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that. That's the reason they started their own business is
Yeah.
because they don't slot in well to the normal like 9 to 5,
Yeah.
schedule will be, at meetings, the times you're supposed to be there and that kind of thing. So I do think, I think it's both, right? It's using AI in the ways that help you get done what you need to do and have the business that you want. And then there's also still that constant growth opportunity to say, I can't outsource everything. I'm still the visionary and the leader of this business. I still, maybe I still have human team members that I need to be able to lead effectively and
Yeah.
make sure I'm not just like completely losing that skill. I think, the thought leadership, the content creation, the showing up and being public piece is a piece that I don't think you'll really ever be able to actually outsource. And I don't think people want to outsource their essence to AI. So it's like really just finding that sweet spot of this is helping me do the things I need to do in a way that is I'm not wasting my life writing podcast show notes. Like I want
Yeah.
to go to the park with my kid and our Claude can get that done in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So it is something where it's like figuring out where it makes sense to plug it in and then not getting lazy with now I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to like push myself to grow into a better leader. Like it's just and everyone's got to find their sweet spot, right? I think
Yeah.
I kind of overcorrected in that like Claude can do everything direction. And I'm now kind of walking back from that because
Same.
I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's probably not able to do everything actually. So yeah, I think finding your sweet spot, but not feeling like you have to make it super complicated. Because I think even like, oh, the reminder to check your voicemail, like that's so basic, but it's something that could be super, super helpful and just take one more thing out of your brain that you don't have to be holding on to for the entire week.
Yeah. Yeah. And Claude, I've like trained it to just because I like my days to be like kind of more in like a block, like a theme block. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't like a lot of context switching around like, okay, I'm doing a podcast interview, I'm doing a sales call, and then I'm going to switch to a strategy call with like
A
they're
paying
using
client.
because as a as a business owner, like we're using different sides of ourselves.
Yeah.
Like some are more like outward focus, more shining, more vibrant. This is sales, this is creating content, this is, this is podcasting. And some are more like this is strategic, this is deep thinking, this is
Mm-hmm.
like doing all the puzzle pieces. And so I like to use it to kind of hold me accountable to like what a good schedule would look like. And
Mm-hmm.
that'll be different for everybody. But yeah, I think the theme of the episode is that there are a ton of ways that you can use AI, and part of it is like you're going to hit walls like we've both hit where it's just like, okay, maybe it can't do everything
Yeah.
and maybe it shouldn't do everything, but like maybe part of that is just going in and I think playing around and seeing what it can do. When clients are ask me like, "Oh, how do I set up Claude or something?" I'm just like, "Go in and, here's like, okay, here's the basic steps to set it up." But then once you're there, just like say, "Hi, what can you help me with?" Like, this is what I'm working with. So I was like, let it help you like understand what it can do.
Definitely.
But just like
Mm-hmm.
there are so many ways and there's probably just going to be 6 months from now, there'll be so many more
Six
ways.
weeks.
6 weeks
Weeks
from now,
more.
there'll be
Yeah.
so many more ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure given that you and I have so much overlap with our skill sets and our perspectives, like I'm sure we could do another hour on this
Oh
topic,
my God.
but
I feel like we just scratched the surface,
I
right?
know
It's
it's
just
crazy.
like,
So all of that to say, I'll have to have you back for part two at some point. But I know that one of the big complaints a lot of people have for good reason is that when they're using these AI tools, they don't like the way that the output sounds. So I know you have a free, I think it's a workshop that
I
helps them walk
do.
through how to fix
Yeah.
that problem.
Yeah, it's the brand voice starter guide. So it's a workshop and it's a workbook. And this is for whether you're just getting started. And even if you've been in business for a while, it's going to walk you through because there's ways that AI are communicating with our clients beyond everybody just goes straight to social media. And that's one part of it. But also, there's every other touch point that clients are coming to contact with. So even if you're like considering having like an AI chatbot on your website, like how does it speak not robotically? Like, what kind of language do you use in your business? What are some things that you would never say? What are some ways that I had a funny issue with Claude recently where, like, when I switched over from like branding to operations, it kept using the word back end, the back end systems. And I'm like, and I just went with it, right? So I was like, then it took me like a couple weeks where I'm like, I don't think anybody even says this. So there's these little examples where you're like, just because it's AI and it can write it fast doesn't mean that it's necessarily like words that you or your clients would ever use.
Mm-hmm.
My clients who are practitioners don't use the word back end. They might say back office, they might say systems, they might say operations, business ops. There's like all these other words, but it wasn't until I was like, "Hey, Claude, like why do you always say back end?" Because it's like kind of funny and it's also not something that people say in this
Mm-hmm.
industry, right? And so this workshop's going to help you just kind of identify some of those phrases and just really the way that you speak and then help you get better at training AI, whether it's through like, the emails that go out when somebody books a calendar appointment with you. Are they like super generic and they're just like, you have a call at, 2 p.m., right? Or does it have personality, right? These are all the brand things that we can use AI for, like in our voice without it necessarily being like, okay, you're just going to write all of my social media content now and they're
Mm-hmm.
never going to write anything. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll put the link to that so you guys can grab that. And if anybody's listening and you're in the health space, I have a ton of content that's specifically like practitioner based. But this one, the Brand Voice Starter Kit, is kind of for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me. And just like, I feel like there is so many different things that you could talk about, even just in the realm of AI for online
Yeah.
business. And so my hope is that everybody listening at least is thinking about what parts of their life and business could use AI to make it easier for them. And it doesn't have to be, because I'm even thinking of a few clients that are like, I will not use AI for my content. And I'm like, good, that's great. That if you're going to hold off on one area of your business to not use AI on, I for sure think it should be your public facing sales and marketing content.
Hmm.
But there's probably a lot of other things that they could very easily use AI to actually make their life easier, and it wouldn't have any negative impact on their business, their brand, their finances. So I'm hoping that this conversation got the wheels turning for people, and we'll definitely link to that brand voice training guide, because I think, like, especially as more people use AI, the more people can start to sniff out really generic sounding content. And so
Yeah.
even in your client communication, I think having it sound like you is going to make everybody just feel better about working with you. So,
Totally.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for all your expertise and your insight on this topic. And thanks to all of you for hanging out with us. I think that was one of our longer interviews recently, but again, so much to talk about. So, feel free to DM me if there's anything that I guess sparked your interest that you want to hear more about, because again, like Nicole said, we really just scratched the surface.
I feel like we have to do a part. And we've already had like
Hours
over
of
an
conversation.
hour. I know. And then we talked for like over an hour and we were just meeting. And so like we definitely have a lot to say, both of
Yes.
us. And I
Yes.
love it.
Never ending.
I would love a part two.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you here next week on the Nurse CEO podcast, everyone. Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nourished CEO podcast. And if this episode got you thinking about how you're actually wired to run your business, your next step is to take the CEO type quiz. Because here's the thing. Most of the business advice out there was built for someone specific. And if that someone isn't you, it doesn't matter how hard you work or how many strategies you implement. It's just never going to feel right, and it's never going to work as well as it should. Knowing your CEO type changes all of that. After you take the quiz, your results page will walk you through your natural strengths, your biggest blind spots, and a concrete game plan for your offers, messaging, sales, and even your calendar, all built around how you actually think and lead. Not generic advice, your specific direction. It takes about 5 minutes and it's completely free. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to lauraschoenfeld.com/quiz. And if you already know your type and this episode resonated with you, share the quiz with someone else who needs it. The right framework at the right time can completely change how someone sees their business. And honestly, that's exactly why I made this. All right, I'll see you next time on the Nourished CEO podcast.